In a courtroom shock that has rocked Hollywood to its core, the judge has just denied Blake Lively's emergency motion to suppress private text messages between her and pop megastar Taylor Swift. These texts, long rumored fiercely guarded and now officially deemed relevant to the case, are set to be released. This isn't just a minor procedural decision. It's a full-blown game-changer in the ongoing legal drama between Blake Lively and actor-turned-producer Justin Baldoni, a case that's already captivated fans and insiders alike with its explosive mix of betrayal, celebrity secrets, and strategic backstabbing. For weeks, Blake Lively's legal team had fought tooth and nail to keep the messages sealed. They claimed it was an invasion of privacy, that the text had no bearing on the central issues of the case. But the judge disagreed, and in no uncertain terms, according to the official ruling obtained exclusively by our team, these texts could provide direct insight into the nature of the relationship, influence over narrative construction, and coordination between the parties. The Bombshell ruling has triggered immediate reactions from legal analysts, insiders close to Taylor Swift, and even a list celebrities now worried about what else could come out. Because if these messages reveal even a fraction of what's been whispered in the shadows of Hollywood, Blake Lively's reputation may not just be damaged, it could be demolished. So what happens now? What do these texts actually say? And why is Taylor Swift at the center of this high-stakes legal showdown? We're about to break it all down. This is the full, unfiltered truth, from courtroom transcripts and leaked documents to secret backroom deals and the social media storm spiraling out of control. To understand how we got here, a legal war between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, with Taylor Swift's private texts now about to be made public, we have to rewind the clock back to the beginning of what many now believe was a masterclass in celebrity PR, deception, manipulation, and vengeance. Blake Lively, once America's sweetheart, the darling of red carpets and effortlessly charming interviews, has long been seen as the one celebrity who kept herself away from the toxic drama of Hollywood. She wasn't like the others, or so we thought. But that image began to fracture in early 2024 when tensions exploded between her and her former co-star, director, and business partner Justin Baldoni. What started as an industry rumor quickly escalated into full-blown scandal when Baldoni filed a $400 million defamation suit against Lively and her husband, actor Ryan Reynolds. The accusations that Blake and Ryan had orchestrated a behind-the-scenes media assault to destroy Baldoni's credibility and torpedo a major Netflix-backed film they had once been producing together. It sounded outrageous, too dramatic to be real. And yet Baldoni came armed with receipts, emails, memos, and most dangerously, the promise of damning text messages that had never been released to the public until now. For months, Blake's team denied everything. They dismissed the lawsuit as desperate, claimed the accusations were baseless, and made public appearances where she smiled and laughed as if the firestorm didn't exist. But behind the scenes, panic. Because there was one thing Blake Lively couldn't deny: her incredibly close and strategic text exchanges with Taylor Swift, texts that reportedly discussed media framing, reputation rehab, and even potential friendly outlets to leak damaging narratives about Baldoni. Taylor, for her part, had stayed silent, but that silence didn't mean she was uninvolved. In the early pre-trial phase, Baldoni's legal team requested access to communications between Lively and Swift. They believed, and now the judge has confirmed, that the text contained conversations where the two women actively strategized how to discredit Baldoni in the press. Blake's lawyers immediately filed a motion to suppress. They called the texts private, irrelevant, and highly sensitive, arguing that releasing them would be a violation of personal boundaries between two unrelated third parties. But Baldoni's team fired back with one argument that changed everything. If these messages are as harmless as Lively claims, why fight so hard to hide them? The judge's decision sent shockwaves through the industry, not just because it meant that Blake Lively's carefully guarded conversations with Taylor Swift were now legally admissible, but because it confirmed what many had only speculated in whispers: that this wasn't just a feud, it was a coordinated operation. Insiders close to Taylor Swift's inner circle began leaking quietly to the press. One described the text exchanges as coldly calculated, saying they featured discussions about which female journalists could be trusted to spin the story and how to frame Justin as a controlling creative liability. These weren't emotional outbursts, these were war plans. What makes this so unprecedented is not that private texts are being released. That happens often in defamation and civil litigation. What makes this extraordinary is who is involved. You're talking about Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, two of the most image-conscious women in entertainment. If they were coordinating a narrative, that's not just defamation, that's PR warfare. Swift, known for protecting her inner circle with fierce loyalty, now faces a painful choice. Does she cooperate and hand over her messages without a fight, or does she risk contempt of court by trying to stall or shield the full archive, one source claims? Swift's team already submitted partial logs, but Baldoni's team is pushing for unredacted content. Because here's the truth, the most damning messages are set to date from November 2023, just weeks before a series of gossip blog posts and blind items began painting Baldoni as toxic, difficult, and insecure around strong female leads. Now suddenly those posts look less like organic reporting and more like a coordinated media hit. Their friendship has always been celebrated, but in the shadow of this lawsuit it raises a darker question: was Taylor Swift unknowingly pulled into a war not of her making, or was she a co-general helping to draft the blueprint? And if these texts reveal Swift crossing lines, strategizing, suggesting leaks, even mocking Baldoni, the fallout could extend far beyond this courtroom. Taylor Swift has always been more than a pop star. She's a political force, a billion-dollar brand, a cultural titan whose words can shift stock prices and sway elections. So when her name surfaced as a central figure in a high-stakes defamation lawsuit, not as a witness, but as a participant, the tremors went far beyond the courthouse. At first, most fans brushed it off. Taylor involved in sabotage? Never. But the documents tell a different story. Legal analysts point to it as a smoking gun in Baldoni's case, because in legal terms it allegedly reflects intentional narrative manipulation, a direct effort to influence public perception of a specific person, using strategic misinformation. Behind the scenes, Swift's reps went into overdrive. Crisis comms were activated. Publicists contacted major outlets. PR insiders leaked word that Taylor was just supporting a friend, that her texts are being misinterpreted, and that this is being weaponized to deflect from Blake's court loss. But the damage was already done, and more was coming, because the judge's ruling didn't just allow the messages into evidence. It opened the door for deposition subpoenas, meaning Taylor Swift herself could now be called to testify under oath. This is the nightmare scenario for any lister. Not just being dragged into someone else's legal mess, but being legally compelled to talk with every word recorded, transcribed, and potentially leaked. Insiders from both camps began negotiating hard. Blake's lawyers reportedly offered a conditional deal, drop the demand for Taylor's full text history in exchange for a summary transcript and a formal statement, but Baldoni's team refused. Their goal is transparency. Or as one source close to Baldoni put it, if they were willing to write it, they should be willing to read it in open court. While Blake Lively's legal team worked frantically behind closed doors, the internet was doing what it does best: investigating. Reddit sleuths and fan accounts began cross-referencing the timeline of the messages with public statements and paparazzi appearances. They noticed patterns. Interviews where Blake subtly trashed a former collaborator days after texting with Taylor. Posts from Swift with cryptic captions. Media stories suddenly appearing in BuzzFeed, E! News, and even The New Yorker, always subtly framing Baldoni as erratic, difficult, or emotionally volatile. As the backlash spread, Blake's online persona took a devastating hit. Once adored for her quick wit and glamorously grounded charm, she became a trending hashtag, and not in the way her publicists hoped. A recent poll conducted by Vanity Fair found a 23% drop in Lively's Q score, a marketing metric that gauges public favorability. Hollywood agents began whispering that upcoming endorsements could be quietly pulled. One major fashion brand, previously eyeing Blake for a campaign, allegedly walked away with no explanation. Even Ryan Reynolds, famously tight-lipped, couldn't escape the blowback. Tabloids picked up on his sudden absence from Blake's side during press appearances. Rumors swirled of tension at home. Unverified sources began suggesting that Reynolds was furious she dragged them both into this mess. And just when Blake thought it couldn't get worse, the court approved the full public release of the first batch of texts. On June 13, 2025, the court released the first batch of Blake Taylor texts. The public finally saw what had been brewing in the shadows. Highlights included Taylor suggesting phrasing to nudge the press, Blake referring to Justin as a brand risk, and discussions on censoring social media posts to create emotional distance between fans and Baldoni. News outlets exploded. CNN ran a headline: Swift and Lively strategy or sabotage, celebrities weighed in. A-listers unfollowed Blake. PR analysts called it the most catastrophic text leak since Amber Heard's court fallout. Taylor Swift released no public comment, only an Instagram story. Quote, silence is sometimes the loudest scream. But Ryan Reynolds couldn't stay quiet. He posted a cryptic tweet: never confuse loyalty with blindness. Sources say he's distanced himself from Blake's legal mess, focusing on their kids and business projects. Divorce rumors are now swirling. A judge's denial became a reckoning. Blake Lively's brand polished, powerful, untouchable now lies in tatters. Taylor Swift's silence only raises more questions. Justin Baldoni, once the target, is now the man Hollywood's watching. And those texts, they didn't just expose private thoughts, they exposed intent. This isn't the end of a feud, it's the beginning of a new Hollywood era, one where receipts matter, silence backfires. And even America's sweethearts aren't safe from the truth. The release of the texts between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift didn't just dominate headlines, it split the public. Supporters of Swift tried to spin the messages as to women venting, but even her most loyal fans struggled to ignore the strategic tone. Blake's phrasing, in particular phrases like "we need to neuter the narrative" or "he's not dangerous, just disposable," hit like a cold slap. Many who once admired her poise now saw something darker, calculated cruelty masked as savvy branding. What those texts showed wasn't just gossip. It was manipulation with intent to professionally erase someone. That's not girl bossing, that's malice. Fallout came fast. Fashion brands paused contracts. Production studios reassessed Blake's involvement in upcoming roles. Ryan Reynolds, noticeably absent from court or comment, was reportedly furious over being looped into her legal disaster. One source told Page Six, "Ryan doesn't do mess. He's a business, and this is brand poison." Paparazzi began catching him solo, and cryptic Instagram activity from both sides fueled divorce rumors. The couple, once Hollywood's comedic golden duo, seemed to be in freefall. But the most unexpected development, a fracture in the most powerful celebrity friendship of the decade, Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. Gone are the public displays of loyalty. Gone are the gushing posts, the concert selfies, the coordinated holidays. After the text leak, Taylor unfollowed Blake on Instagram quietly, without fanfare, but loud enough for her fanbase to take notice. That silence, it said everything. PR insiders now confirmed that Swift was deeply upset by how far Blake had dragged her into the court drama. While Taylor's team initially downplayed her involvement, internal sources say she felt blindsided by how much her name and words were weaponized in a case she was never supposed to be part of. There's a real possibility Taylor will testify in the discovery phase, even if just via deposition. That's the risk you take when your private messages become public legal evidence. And so the friendship, once a shining example of loyalty and trust, now appears frozen, if not fractured entirely. Back in the courtroom, Blake's legal team tried one final maneuver. A motion to delay the discovery deadline, citing new privacy concerns and media interference. The judge denied it, immediately issuing a terse warning: celebrity status does not entitle one to immunity from the consequences of their written words. Justin Baldoni, meanwhile, remains poised, focused, and as some say, vindicated. He's no longer just a plaintiff. He's a symbol for those steamrolled by power players who thought they'd never be held accountable. One legal source told Variety, even if this case doesn't end in full damages being awarded, the damage to Blake's brand is already done. This trial became about more than just reputation, it became a reckoning. Blake Lively walked into court expecting a quick victory, a PR cleanup, a dismissal, maybe a headline or two she could spin into sympathy. What she got instead was exposure, not just to the legal system, but to something far more powerful: the court of public opinion. The judge may have denied her motion, but it was the public who issued the real verdict. Her image, once untouchable, now lies in pieces. Her friendships, once unshakable, now hang by a thread. And her career, it may survive, but not without scars. As for Taylor Swift, the woman caught in the middle, her silence remains for now. But in a world where even private texts become courtroom exhibits, silence is no longer safety. In this new era of celebrity accountability, even the most curated personas must answer for the truths they tried to bury, because in Hollywood,